All right. We'll go ahead and get started. I have Rob, Keefer, and Derek from Pomodoro. Please join me in welcoming them.
Can you guys hear me? Am I on? Okay. We have an interactive session planned, so we're going to need some people to come up on stage and participate with us. It's a little harder when everybody's kind of spread out all over, but we'll do the best we can. We did set up a hashtag for this talk, DevFlow, and then of course the Path to Craft hashtag. So feel free to tweet out, chat amongst yourselves, ask questions, participate. We're happy to be interrupted, even though it is kind of all spread out. It's not a problem at all. So to get started with this whole idea, I wanted to ask you guys a question, and that is, what makes you happy? If you think about philosophers as far back as Aristotle started asking this question and realized that people are driven by happiness. Even in the U.S. Founding documents, it says the pursuit of happiness, right? And so this is something that we're all after. And we think we're going to find happiness in our pursuit of money or power or fame, different things that people use to pursue happiness. If someone asked me this question, I would think about last summer. I took my family up to Michigan. We're hanging out on Lake Michigan. We have 6 kids, so yeah, you can pray for my wife. So we're out there. It's a beautiful evening. The sun's setting. Kids are throwing rocks and skipping rocks into the lake. And I'm taking all of this in, and I'm thinking, this is a happy moment. I enjoy this. I'm enjoying my family, and I'm enjoying the environment that I'm in. Unfortunately, that's fleeting. Kind of goes away, and then I go back to work on Monday, and if work doesn't make me happy, then I get to be miserable for another 51 weeks until next year when we get to do it again. And so what we're really wanting to talk about is kind of pulling that idea of happiness into our workplace. A fellow named Csiksgentmihalyi wrote a book in 1990 that was based on 25 years of his research. The title of the book is Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience, and he's a psychologist out of the University of Chicago. And he performed, like I said, extenuous studies over 25 years to, extenuous, that's my own word. Over 25 years, and in the 80s, he had people wear pagers, and pagers would go off at random times, and they would record what they were doing and what their state of mind was, and if they were happy or sad, and those kinds of things. And what he discovered over this 25-year period of time is that while we can't, oftentimes happiness is these external events like going on family vacation, they can also be internally motivated. And he began to discover what some of the things were that contributed to that state of happiness. And so that's a lot of what we want to talk about today. And where he went with this was, one of the stories that he tells is of a migrant worker working in a factory, just cars or whatever he's making kind of moving by. For the most part, everybody's just kind of sitting there screwing their screw in and doing their job and not really caring. But he found one fellow who was way into doing this, and he would actually time himself, and he had next to his stool, he would record how long each event took, and was just trying to truly optimize his whole experience. And this fellow was probably the happiest person in the factory. And that illustrates, it's a good illustration of how we can incorporate happiness from our own internal motivation in what we do day to day. The state of flow, I'm sure you've all experienced it in one way or another, is that place where you're in the zone, When, for a basketball player, the hoop is as big as a bread basket and the ball is tiny and it just goes in, right? Or if you're gardening and you're out there and things are just happening for you and you're just kind of in the zone. And to illustrate this a little bit more, I was thinking back to The Social Network, the movie about Facebook. Have you guys seen this? I don't know if you've seen this. But there's a scene there where they refer to it as being wired in. Uh-oh. So we missed the soundbite at the beginning where they refer to somebody being wired in also, but it's the whole idea of being focused. Don't bother me. I want to stay in the zone and stay where I'm at. Okay, so I want to kind of use a Lego example to build this up a little bit. So I'm looking for 3 volunteers to get up here. We do have small gift cards for those who will volunteer, because I didn't really expect anybody to volunteer on their own, so I had to bribe you. Okay, so there's 3 people right here. I'm going to need 9 of you eventually, so we'll take these first 3 right here, and then. Yeah, so if you guys could come on up and then have a seat here. Yeah, grab a seat. Okay, so we're playing with Legos as part of all of this. So we've got 3 folks up here who are open to playing with Legos, and so each of them have a set of directions. And we have, oops. I need to get to, there we go. And so you can see one participant as she's building. The pink fingernails kind of give it away. So you guys can kind of see what they're up to. And what I want you guys to do is just follow the directions. There's Legos in your box there, and we're just going to time you and see who can get done the fastest, okay?
Time makes me nervous.
Oh, okay, well, don't be nervous. Okay, ready? Go ahead.
So how is it going so far, guys? I'll be the play-by-play side of the field commentator. All right. So it looks like there are a lot of words in your directions here.
I know, and I feel like I've already messed up.
Looks like we're cruising down here. We've got one thing built, 2 things. Oh man, she's breaking them all up now.
This is another one.
So this doesn't usually take this long.
So you guys have used Legos before, right? All right, good, good.
Okay,
All right,
so we
I
got
think-
a winner.
I think we have a winner.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't judge me. I'm an engineer. It's what I do.
So he's got a P2A, which is kind of a plug for tomorrow, the Path to Agility a conference. So yeah, but don't panic. Yes, you are the loser. However, you just chose. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong seat.
I did.
So this set of directions has only words on it, and was definitely embellished, right? So the first set of directions here is welcome to the Lego challenge, and blah blah blah. The second set here has pictures and words, and the last section has only pictures. And he's always going to win. Well, the middle person will win if they don't read the words, if they only look at the pictures. Okay. Stop reading the words. Right. So unfortunately, you didn't really have a chance right from the beginning.
I wish I would have won now.
Yeah, that would have messed up my example though. So thank you guys for participating. Uh-oh, my machine locked up. That's not good. There it goes. Okay, so what we want to do, is talk through, and using this as an example, what are some of the conditions for getting into that state of flow, or that optimal experience? So what we need, first of all, what we need is a goal. And the goal should be fairly well established. So for this person on the end here who had the words, the goal was established, but it wasn't necessarily very clearly communicated, not near as well communicated as the person with only pictures. Okay, so we have the goal, but we have to clearly communicate the goal. Secondly, we need to get feedback, and the feedback should be on a regular basis and as often as possible, given the context that it's in. And so the fellow on the end there, as he's working, he's able to look at what he's building and look at the picture and compare the two. And he's able to say, is this right? He doesn't have to read the words. Whereas the person who has the directions here, she has to read, connect a 2x2 block. Is this a 2x2 block? She's always comparing. So the feedback loop has a lot of resistance in it, right? It's difficult to get through that feedback loop. And then finally, we need to have a balance between challenge and skills. And this can come, hopefully in this setting, everyone was familiar with Legos and was feeling that they were up for the challenge and had the skill to do this. But we'll talk about this a little bit more in life. So as we think about optimal experience and how do we get to the state of flow, we need a goal, we need feedback towards that goal, and we need to have a clear sense of what the challenge is and if we have the skills to meet it. If we think of challenge and skill on a graph like this, if you have low skill for the challenge that's at hand, it can cause you to become anxious. In the same way, if you have a lot of skill in something and the challenge isn't very high, then you can become bored. Now I see this with my boys playing their video games, right? They start out and they play NBA 2K14 or whatever until they're pummeling the other team 100-3. And then all of a sudden, they're finally willing to ramp up the challenge a little bit and change something different, and then they have to learn again. And so we all kind of do this, but where we really want to be is in this middle part, and that's where flow comes in. This flow, the meeting of the challenges with skills, we can see that at the team level and at the individual level, whether we're writing code or we're managing projects. So these are some of the things we want to chat through today. So what does this look like in your world? How many folks in here are practicing Agile? And I'm going to use Agile in a very broad term. So, okay, so pretty much everybody, yes. And the people who are doing this are probably the most honest from all of my years of coaching in Agile. But let's just say that you are practicing Agile and you have a product backlog, which is that list of things to do to get something shipped. And then you also have a sprint backlog. Well, both of these give us that set of goals that we're looking for. As a team begins to build the code that's going to fulfill those stories, we want to be able to have automated builds and tests. There's lots of tools that are out there to support this, TeamCity and Jenkins and all of those. And we can get immediate feedback on how our builds are going. For our guys, they have a little plugin in Chrome that tells them when somebody checks something in and the build breaks. So the whole team can know almost immediately when the build's broken. We want that feedback as soon as possible. And then similarly, having the automated tests go off when somebody checks stuff in, that gives us that opportunity of feedback. We always know how things are going, gives us a sense of confidence, and the team itself can get into that state of flow. So what I want to do is talk about three things that we practice at our shop that all support this whole idea of getting into flow. And while flow is a psychological state that, again, that Csiksgentmihalyi wrote about and has a number of different concepts that go with that, outside of being in that very personal state of flow, we're referring to this as peace of mind. And there's three different tools that we use to do this. And if you're in a quasi-agile shop and you have a backlog that you're able to refer to, maybe the first one of Personal Kanban, maybe you don't necessarily need that one. But if you're operating on your own, you can use Personal Kanban, and we'll talk through that a little bit. Then everyone can use the Pomodoro method, which we'll talk about. And then finally, for the developers in the room, TDD or test-driven development gives you that very immediate, did I write the test? The goal is to get the test to pass. Did I write the code that makes the test pass? Is the test passing? I get that feedback almost immediately. So we're going to chat through these three. So Personal Kanban. So Kanban is similar to a storyboard, for those of you familiar with Agile, where you're going to line up your list of things to do. You're going to know what you're currently working on and what you've completed. For me, in my role, I guess I should kind of introduce what we do. At Pomyet, we provide teams as a service, essentially, for folks. We bring in projects in-house and work on those as a team. So a minimum team to us is 2 developers, a UX person, and what we call a project manager, or you could think of it as a Scrum Master or a coach, depending on your XP or Scrum version that you like to use. So the teams have their storyboards, and they're running through those. For me personally, I kind of sit outside of those and work by myself quite often. So I have foam core boards in my office that I line up. What do I need to do this week? What's in progress? And what have I gotten done this week? And so you can, and using sticky notes just there. Using this method allows you to see, visualize your work in progress, gives you that feedback over a period of time. For the Kanban, we like to do that, we like to think of that in weeks. In Personal Kanban, I try to think of that in a week's worth of work. So what can I get done in a week, and line that up in your to-do column, and then watch them move across. For our teams, we use 3-week cycles, and so the guys will line up 3 weeks worth of stories and get those pushed through. In a Lego type world, we're not going to build this today, but in a Lego type of example, if the whole project is to build a Lego city, one of the stories could be around maybe building the library or building a firehouse or something smaller like that. That's something that we could get done in a relatively short period of time, but it will take a little bit of time to do. One of the nice things about Kanban and from a goal perspective is we know what work we need to have completed or what we need to get done. And so we know what our goal is, we've planned it out, and that we've visualized that. We're able to visualize our work in progress, and so the feedback then allows us to see the flow of those sticky notes or those things going across the board. From a challenge and skill perspective, we're able to understand, can we do this? And if not, some of the stories or some of the sticky notes that we'll put on our board there may need to give us, help us learn the skills that we need to learn in order to accomplish the challenge that's ahead of us. But it gives us that way of recognizing where we need to develop skills and grow to the challenges that are there. The personal Kanban is the type of thing that you can use pretty much in any part of your life. Paul and I, have been doing Agile since like 2003, two of the partners at Pomodoro, and so we've got lots of stories of crazy things that we've done over the years. And one of the things that I did many years ago was set up Xplanner. I don't know if anybody ever heard of Xplanner. I set up an Xplanner server at home, gave my wife a login to it. It's basically an Agile tool to plan out stories, and had her start punching in my honey-do list into Xplanner. And that's where I would get my list of things to do. And so one year, the week between Christmas and New Year's, I was going to take the week off, and I'm going to just try to get through some of the things that are on my honey-do list. And so I sit down with my wife on Sunday night, and I said, okay, here's the list. What do you want us to do? What do you want to get done this week? And she says, well, she kind of looks through it, and she says, well, I want it all done. And I said, well, yeah, you sound like a client. That's everybody wants it all done. But tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be at Home Depot. I'm going to buy something, come home, and do the work. What do you want that work to be? She kind of looks through the list again, and she says, well, you know, if you're going to put it that way, really I want that banister on the front steps fixed. And I said, well, that's not on the list, which also sounds like a client, right? But getting back to this, so I knew what the goal was. I was able I knew I needed to fix the banister. As I'm constructing the banister, I'm able to give feedback to see how my progress is going. But then also, at the very beginning of the whole thing, I probably need to go watch a YouTube video or something to figure out how to cut angles just right. So I have, as part of my list of things to do, is some education, developing some skills so that I can meet the challenge that's been set. So that was personal Kanban. Again, that can apply to the team perspective, just using your stories, or personally, just making your list of things to do. The Pomodoro method now brings that down to a very tight time frame, like a day or so. And it's a similar idea. Have you guys heard of the Pomodoro method or technique? A couple of you. So the word Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. And the fellow who came up with this technique used an oven timer in the shape of a tomato, and he would set it to 25 minutes and work for 25 minutes, and then he would take a 5-minute break. And then he would set the timer for 25 minutes, work, and you do that for 4 times, basically 2 hours, and then you take a half-hour break. So what we're wanting to do then is come up with a list of things that we're going to try to do today. So basically we're creating our backlog or our Kanban board, our to-do list for the day. And then we're going to track how many of these 25-minute periods of time am I going to spend on that. And if I break those tasks down into 4-hour tasks or so, then as I check off the 25 minutes, I'm getting feedback as to how long is this taking me and how much more do I really think I'm going to be able to go over time, of course, you're able to begin to estimate those tasks a little bit more. So again, we're going to pick a task, 4 hours or less. And so for me, this could be working on some article that I'm writing or working on this talk. I'm going to work on the preparation for my Path to Craft presentation. That could be what's on my Kanban board, but I need to work on the introduction. And so I'm going to work on the introductory slides for 25 minutes and mark that off. Maybe I do that 2 or 3 times, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at with the introduction. Then I'll move on to the next step, Personal Kanban, Pomodoro, TDD, and I'll work through those. And those will be lines in my to-do list. So I'll work on them for 25 minutes, and then when the timer rings, I stop and push away. And in extreme programming, there's this concept of push away, and the whole idea is that you, when you're struggling through something, you need to take a break, step away from it for a little bit, and then come back to it, and you probably have a lot more clarity. And so by doing this, working for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break allows you to clear your mind. Don't bring up your email again or tweet or Twitter or whatever. Just take a 5-minute break, sit there, get a drink of water or something like that, and then get right back to it. By shutting everything down, you're able to focus, keep away the interruptions. There is a part of this that allows you to, while the 25 minutes are going on, if you have an internal interruption, like I need to go to the bank, I forgot to take the socks out of the dryer, whatever, you can write that down on the sheet and then keep going, because you clear that out of your head, you keep track of it, you know where to find it, and then at the end, you can take care of it in your 5-minute break, or wait till your 2 hours, or wait till you get home, or whatever it is. But you've been able to clear your mind and be able to stay focused. There's also external interruptions. Somebody comes by, the phone rings, whatever. You can ask those people, if you got the timer going, you can ask that person that comes by and say, hey, can I get back to you in 5 minutes or 7 minutes or however long your Pomodoro has left? And when you actually do follow up with them in 7 minutes, you begin to build that trust, and folks will be willing to let you go and come back at the end of when you said you would. And so as you're doing those, you can put little tick marks on your Pomodoro sheet that marks whether you had an internal or an external interruption. So these are some of the sheets that we use at our shop. And you can just see we have the to-do for today, and then at the bottom is where we can write down any interruptions or things that come up. Some people ask when we do this, why don't you use electronic tools? If you do a search on Pomodoro apps, there's apps out there and all of that. I think the answer to the question is that this just works. It's smoother, it's easier, it's just, we don't have to think too hard about it. Some of the apps that we've tried, they're kind of clunky. I still use one app that just has a timer on it, and so I can hit something at the top of my screen, and it'll start a 25-minute timer. But as far as keeping track of my list of things to do and stuff, the old analog with a pencil seems to work the best. So I do need 3 more volunteers to play with Legos again. And this time you won't be set up, I promise. The first one is probably a really bad example because, sure, we got 1, 2, and then one of you guys can arm wrestle over who wants to do this one. We will have one more, so yeah, if you guys can come on up. Here you go, Derek. You have one there. Okay, so for this, I need to switch it. Oh, jeez. So this was from a picture from a project. So each of these guys have been given a larger task to do. So we have build a library, and then
Build a school and build a firehouse.
So build a library, build a school, and build a firehouse. And so then each of them have their Pomodoro sheets. So what we want them to do is go through and think about what are the tasks that it takes to go into that. Then we'll have them build a little bit. And since we don't have 4 hours for them to work through, or even 25 minutes, we'll simulate it, cut it down to, say, 2 minutes, and then take a short break, and then another couple of minutes to build. So go ahead and make your list of things to do that you guys think would be appropriate for completing your task. While they're doing this, does anybody have any questions or anything? Anything we've talked about so far? Yes?
I've been thinking about doing Pomodoro for a while, but the one thing that I always wondered about was the actual timer going off. I figured that would always be somewhat of a abrasive thing. Usually, I'm sure with apps or something like that, you just set it to vibrate. But in the case of an actual timer, is that something that is generally pretty abrasive?
Yes. So the question is, he's thought about using the Pomodoro method, but he's afraid that at the end of 25 minutes, the timer going off is going to scare him to death. And yes, it will. I swear I'm going to have a heart attack one of these days from that happening. So to that point, what I've done is set up 25-minute playlists. And so at the end of when the last song kind of stops, I don't know if I'm at 25 or 27 minutes. At some point in time, something in my head goes off that says, music's not playing anymore. And so then I take a break. But yeah, there was time, and especially sitting in a war room, somebody sitting next to me, they'll just start cracking up because I'll have headphones on and all of a sudden that bell goes off and I literally will jump. And so we tried to get away from that. So, okay, so we have lists.
Yeah, let's check in and see how our volunteers are doing. So, let's see, you have the build a library story. All right, and how did you break that story down?
Because I knew I had a short amount of time, I broke it down into certain areas. So a book storage, a book checkout, audiobook section, and movie storage would kind of be in the same area. So.
Cool, very good, very good. And what about down here for building a school?
I figured I was going to need to come up with a basic structure, a foundation, and then a shell for the building. And then I need to come up with 7 classrooms, and I kind of broke that into subtasks. Build the first few, then a few more, and then the final one, which would probably be trickier to fit in. And then I had to come up with hallways, and then the other additional rooms, a gym and lunchroom, a kitchen, admin and office. Each of those being separate tasks. Tried to put some time estimates on them as well.
Okay, interesting. So for your time estimates, are they number of Pomodoros maybe, or number of hours, you think? Pomodoros? Okay, great. All right, and then for our last volunteer down here, building a firehouse.
First thing I would do is probably get the instructions, or build a plan anyway, get the materials, and then I would go ahead and build the walls, or build the foundation, build the walls, build the garage, build the beds, shower facilities, and then build the offices, and then put the roof on, and then I'd have to build the trucks and probably build the firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great. So it sounds like we have showers without a roof. It'll be an interesting firehouse. The roof on the last? Interesting.
Okay.
All right, I could just see the firefighter employees getting ready for work in the bathrooms without roofs.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
So, so this is good. So you can kind of see how they broke it down. Some people broke it down by just very focused on the task. Some people said, hey, maybe I should take a second and plan. All of those things may or may not fit into the way that you use the Pomodoro. But again, the focus is that you should be able to complete the task in, say, 8 hours at the most. Really, you're trying to break it down into like half-day sections. So why don't you guys go ahead and get started. We'll let you work for a couple more minutes. When the timer goes off, take a quick break. Okay? So any other questions? Sure.
Last question. Do you ever feel that at the end of 25 minutes, you're actually getting somewhere and you don't want to stop?
Yes. Yep, yeah. So the question is, at the end of 25 minutes, are you finally getting somewhere, and do you not want to stop? And yes, that does happen for sure. And so that's where the discipline comes in, to take that 5-minute break. And there are times, honestly, even after years of doing this, where I'll just keep going. You know, I'll be in it, and I'm wired in, right? So I just hit the timer and start up and get going again. The problem with that is that what we're looking for is a sustainable pace over a period of time. And so I can carry on like that for an hour and a half or 2 hours, but then I feel it a little bit more maybe at the end of the day. I'm not as productive, or I'm more easily distracted. Whereas the times when I am more disciplined about taking those 5-minute breaks, even at the end of the day, I can be just as productive as I was earlier in the day. So it is a self-discipline thing. Other questions? Yes.
So after a while, the anxiety of having the 25 minutes slowly go away, because I can we're not like time fast, right?
Right.
Needed time fast.
Yeah.
Still don't like to
So for me, it's actually the opposite. In that, so his question is there anxiety around it? Like, it feels like a timed test. How much can I get done in 25 minutes, and I have to be focused for this 25 minutes? For me, it's actually kind of the opposite, in that I may have a lot of things going on, but I'm going to say, okay, for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to focus on this task. And so it's almost easier to get started on something. Like I want to sit down and punch out slides to prepare for this talk. Oh, okay, let's take a quick break. So we were right in the middle of a conversation and we had to stop, right? So to your point, all of a sudden, wait, we're breaking up the flow, but it's actually the discipline that allows us to keep that going. So, okay, are you guys rested? Okay, keep going. So there's times when it's easier for me to say, okay, I'm just going to get started on this task and work for 25 minutes. And then I end up getting wired in, and I'm able to go for 2 hours on something that I didn't really even want to get started on. So having that 25-minute time box almost frees me up to get focused rather than feeling constrained. Any other questions? Sure.
So in regard to this, either on a personal level, or let's say if you are an agile coach to a particular team, do you try to be careful as far as what your personal or what your team's capacity is, so that as you enter in a particular time box, you don't commit to too much work? Do you ever,
Yeah.
is that a factor, or is that a strategy that you have to help maintain flow?
So we'll work, most of us work on this at a very personal level, so it's just kind of your own, whatever you think you can get done. And then over time, now this is giving you data, right? So if you guys do a search on the Pomodoro technique, there's a 40-page paper that Cirillo wrote on this topic, and you can see he's kind of got these advanced techniques. But basically, at the end of a few weeks, now you've got some real data, so now you can really make some good planning. So you can think about how long will I think this will take, and you can actually estimate. And he encourages you to draw boxes next to each of those lines to estimate out and be able to get a feel for, am I meeting what I thought? Is this taking as long as I thought it would? So yeah, you can get to that. The other part of that question was around team, and does the team organize around this? What I like about doing this when we're pair programming is sometimes okay, you guys are done. I'll finish that thought in a second. All right. So you want to check in and see how we did here?
All right, let's check in and see how our teams are doing. So for building a library, you, let's see, looks like your first Pomodoro was building the book storage and then building out the book checkout. About how far did you get into those tasks?
Storage, book checkout.
Nice. And so the book storage, was that from the first Pomodoro? Did you finish that entirely in the first Pomodoro?
Yeah.
And then what did you do when you got done building the book storage?
The next step.
Okay.
So I went to audiobooks, audiobook section, and movie of storage.
Okay. And did you ever finish a task in the middle of a Pomodoro cycle? Or did it always kind of line up to where you were finishing kind of right on par with how you planned out the Pomodoros?
So for the checkout, I got about halfway through, and then the first went off, so I just stopped.
Okay. And then when you came back, it kind of freed you up to come back and think about how you might potentially want to start, maybe changing it a little bit or adding to it. And
Not as much. It was more of when it went off, I knew what I wanted to do, and then when it started back up again, I was able to pick right back up where it was.
okay, good. Good, great, thanks. All right, let's jump down here to the firehouse. See how our firehouse team member did. Let's see, so your first Pomodoro was getting the instructions, right? Finding the plans? Okay, great. So you had a design to kind of go off of? Great. Was it really like high fidelity design with lots of measurements, or was it kind of very high level? Okay. Okay.
And then I started shooting the Legos and got the pieces, so I got those two done, and then I think that first Pomodoro went up, I guess, and now I'm kind of in the build the walls phase.
And how's that phase going?
It's going fine. Probably could be quicker, but I guess we can always work quicker, but we work at the pace that we work at, I guess. So. Yeah.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay, thank you guys. That's all we're going to do with that right now. I do want to finish answering the one question though, and that was when we're pair programming, some of the guys like to think about these big frameworks or building something way bigger than maybe what they really need to. One of the XP and Agile tenets is to do the simplest thing that works. And so we might be pairing on something and have the timer going, start some kind of conversation, even get up at the whiteboard and start talking, and then the timer will go off. And it'll remind us, oh wait, we're obviously making this way harder than what it has to be. And so it's nice to have that there so that we don't waste 2 hours designing this great thing that we're not going to build, because at the end of that conversation we're going to look at each other and say, oh, we're supposed to do the simplest thing that works. And so it helps time box those long conversations also, which is kind of, it's a side effect, I guess, that when you're pairing or teaming on and using that technique. Okay, so again, so you have your tasks, you're able to track your progress and track your interruptions. On the sheet there, you're able to mark with tick marks or dashes if you have internal or external interruptions. And then you're able to see your tasks get finished, but also as you're breaking them down, you're able to say, can I accomplish this? Is it broken down into an accomplishable task? Do I have the skill to meet that challenge? And if not, maybe I need to add something to that list of things to do in order to get the skill that I need to be able to meet the challenge. Okay, and then finally, we want to get into TDD a little bit. How many of you would say that you practice test-driven development? So, yeah, okay, so I've got a few like this, a couple of sturdy ones. That's actually probably, when I get up and ask this question at Agile presentations, I don't think I've ever seen more than 5 or 6, and I think we got about close to 10 today. So that's actually a good thing, that things are changing. For the rest of you, test-driven development is essentially you're going to write a test, you're going to write the code that makes the test pass, and you're going to keep running that test and running the code, writing the code and running the test until the test passes. So you're building them hand in hand. The first time that I did this was many years ago. We had a system that had a robot talking to a VB app. Believe it or not, that's how long ago this was, 2001 or something like that. And we had 6 weeks to write this very complicated communications layer app. And so we took this approach. We said, okay, we're going to write tests, we're going to write code, we're going to just test the crap out of this thing. And sure enough, at the end of 6 weeks, we were done, got it pushed out, and it went out into the production floor in a factory for, as far as I know, about 6 years, and we never had any bugs at all show up in that line, in that bit of code. There's bugs on both sides, but not in that communication layer. And at the time even, I remember thinking, wow, this is pretty cool, that we should keep using this. And so then over the years, that's become a regular practice of what we do and how we go about doing things. And again, it's write the test, write the code to make the test pass. So we're going to run the test, we're going to change the test, we're going to run the test to make sure everything works. We're going to change the test until it fails. Well, not until it fails, and make it fail. Then we're going to change the code to make the test pass. Okay? So, and we're always thinking about doing the simplest thing that works. So I need 3 more, my last 3 volunteers. I think I had 1 more over here at one time. Maybe they chickened out. Okay, got 1 over here. I need 2 more. No, 2 more? Okay, 1 more. Okay, good. I could call 2 Pommier guys up here, but they wouldn't like that, so. Great, thank you guys for coming up. There's no rigged seats for this one either, so just have a seat. Oh, that's right. The one does have a camera on it. Okay, so yeah, so kind of clear a little work area there for yourself. And we're thinking about test-driven development. And so we're going to write a very small piece of code. And so the first thing that I want you guys to build is a man. That's the only requirement that you got, is it's a man.
So it's kind of a lot of time to build a man.
It's a long time to build a man.
Yeah.
I think they're all failing the test. So build the simplest thing that works as a man. Okay, that's pretty simple, but it's still too complicated. Build the simplest thing that works as a man. That's still less complicated, or more complicated than what I'm thinking, but less complicated than what he had. What's the simplest thing to be a man? Excuse me. There's our man, right? Whatever we represented it to be, it's just a simple. So all we really needed was like 1 block, right? There's our man. We're just declaring that to be a man. That's the simplest thing. Okay? And this is great because it illustrates often what we do. We get a requirement that says, build a man, and we think, well, he has to have a head and arms and legs. No, all he has to do is just be a blockhead, right? I mean, it's just very simple. Let's keep it tight. So now, let's build a house. What's the simplest thing that can be a house? Yeah, perfect. So now we've got our house. Now the next requirement is let's build a house that the man can fit in. But we're always thinking about the simplest thing to do. And this is the way, okay, good. He's got our man shrank, but yeah, good. He's in the house. He's got a roof over his head. Yeah. So now we can build a man with arms and legs, which you guys had already started doing. Two arms and 2 legs. I'll be a little more specific. Okay, good. So what we're doing here is we're having a new goal, but we're doing the simplest thing as possible to meet that goal, and we're getting feedback. Does it pass the test? Does the man fit in the house? Now, of course, the next thing could be, now we need to refactor the house, or now we need a house that the man still fits in. And so we're going to build the house a little bit bigger, right? But it's that iterating, it's that churning over the code, it's growing things from the grassroots up that allows us to build that quality in, and getting that feedback all along the way helps us get into that state of flow also. So, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, thanks guys. So again, at the TDD level, the goal is to write the test and have the test pass. The feedback is when we run the test, does it pass or fail? So for those of you who use, there's tools that are out there that help support this way of writing code. When the test fails, it's red. When the test passes, it's green. It shows a little green indicator on the tools that they're using. And then the idea is to refactor, clean it up, and make sure that it works the way that you want it to, that it's the simplest thing that can work. And so kind of the PAT phrase is red, green, refactor. We want a red test that's failing. We want to write the code to make the test pass. So now it's passing and it's green. And then we want to refactor it and clean it up and make it be the simplest as possible. When we're doing this, our skill level and to meet each challenge, the challenges can be very small. All we need to do is build a man, do something small, and so we have the skill to do that. And then we have the skill to do the next thing and the next thing all along the way. When Kent Beck describes this, he's one of the guys who really popularized TDD back many years ago. He talks about how he first started playing with this idea, and so he wrote a test, and he wrote the code to get the test to pass, and then he wrote another test, and he wrote the code to get the test to pass, and kind of back and forth. And he realized eventually along the way there that he was done. And this whole idea of the euphoria of something working finally from a programmer's perspective was gone. He just kind of said, write the test passes, write the code, back and forth, and oh, I solved the problem. Rather than trying to build this huge tower of cards up in his head and keep it there for a long period of time and write the code to support that, it was just these baby steps all along the way that got him to where he was wanting to go. So it gives you that confidence along the way that you can meet that. So it's confidence in the moment. Then you also have this pile of tests that you can refer back to years and months later. So it gives you confidence later. So if you have that pile of tests that are hitting against your code, you can go back on a project that you haven't worked on in a while, run the tests, and if they all pass, then you're comfortable with where you're at and you can get started again. And then thirdly, from a team perspective, anybody who picks up that code at any point in time, they can start with running the tests, they see that they all pass, and they can start making changes. So it's confidence today, later on, and for the team, for the life of the project. So again, we're thinking about what we call peace of mind. We're taking that idea of flow. Of all of these things, the place where you're really going to get into that psychological state of flow is probably in test-driven development while you're writing the code. So mapping that out a little bit, we kind of coined the phrase peace of mind for that confidence and that watching your work in progress and tracking how things are going and being able to stay focused. As you think about adopting one or a couple of these practices over the next week, the story, first, some of you may have read the book, Seth Godin's book called The Dip. Jerry Weinberg, for those of us who are older and have read some of his stuff, he talks about the dip in the psychology of computer programming, where he's saying he liked to play pinball. And at one point in time, there was a new pinball machine in his apartment building, and so he started tracking his pinball scores. And as he started playing, his pinball scores were kind of low and started coming up a little bit. And then they took a dip. They went down, and then they shot up. And then they leveled out a little bit, and then they took a dip, and then they shot up again. And what he realized was that each of those times when his score started going down is when he was learning, is when he was bumping the machine a little harder, trying to figure out what the dynamics of the machine were, and his scores would go down. But then eventually, he'd figure out how to do it, and his scores would shoot up. And so in the same way, you guys are going to experience the same idea, where your productivity might feel like it's going down. I'm having to plan all this stuff out. I'm thinking more, those kinds of things. But really where you'll end up is in this state of flow after you go through those learning curves and after you feel some of that pain. So in conclusion, I just want to ask, what are you doing to promote peace of mind in your organization? So we all want to get to optimized experience. We all want to get to happiness. We all want to get to a place where we enjoy work as much as possible. And so what are you guys doing to promote that as well? So I'd love to hear from you. If anybody has any other questions, we got a couple more minutes. Feel free to email or contact me in some way. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, great. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have one. Yeah, so I don't know, do you want to talk to that a little bit? I've got ideas, but so the question is, how does Pomodoro work in a team setting?
Yeah, so from a developer perspective, one thing that we've tried is trying to do like kind of synchronized Pomodoros on our own. So that kind of helps the team internally manage their own interruptions. So when we're all kind of on the same kind of work cycles, then we all kind of push back and we can talk about what we did last weekend or go to the water cooler and kind of burn that 5 minutes of kind of internal community time, resting all at the same time together. But then also at the same time, from an external interruption, one thing that definitely helps is that we can either try to minimize those external interruptions by either focusing those to maybe just the mornings. And so if we're doing meetings, maybe all of our meetings always happen in the mornings, so that way we have the rest of the day to spend really just focusing and being heads down. I know a lot of teams have like no meeting Wednesdays or no meeting Fridays, where they just enforce that Friday or Wednesday is an entirely meeting-free day for the teams just to do work and be productive. So teams can get creative. It definitely requires a little bit of organization amongst all of the players to kind of make that happen. We're always going to have other meetings to go to or clients to go and talk to, but I think the key is just kind of managing those in a way that works for the team to still be productive.
Yeah, and then from a management perspective, if our guys are focused for say 6 hours in this way a day, they're getting a lot of stuff done. And so you can, if you're staying focused and you don't have those interruptions or those interruptions are planned, it allows you to get a lot more done. And so then in those meetings times of a couple of hours a day, or like Derek said, maybe in an afternoon where we just don't get back to work, we've still been productive that day. So I don't know, did that answer your question? Okay. Yes?
Related to that question, you mentioned you use the Pomodoro technique during your programming sessions.
Yes.
Have you also used it during sprint planning or backlog sessions with kind of long meetings?
Yeah, so the question is, do you use the Pomodoro technique on other things other than coding or personal productivity? We haven't necessarily used that specifically for planning meetings or other things, but what we will do is still set a timer. So to me, a story should be defined in 10 minutes or less, and if I see that the team is going longer than 10 minutes, I'll start to set a timer and have the timer go off, and they'll know that and then I'll say something, hey, we need to keep moving. We also do a thing that we call lean coffee. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but lean coffee is where you basically create a Kanban board. So everybody who's participating sits down and makes an agenda of what are the things that they're interested in talking about. Everybody at the table then votes on what those agenda items are. Whatever gets the most votes is the highest priority topic for the meeting. And then we set a timer for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long we think it should take. And we take the sticky note and put it in the to-do column and hit the timer and start going. And we talk about that for 5 minutes, or like I said, even 2 minutes. And then at the end of that, when the timer goes off, everybody at the table either puts their thumb up that, yes, I want to continue to talk about this topic. I don't care if we keep talking or not, or no, I'm done. And so then we can get a feel from everybody as to if we should continue to do this or not. And again, you can Google lean coffee and find stuff out there on this. And so like a management meeting, when the three partners get together, we can get through a normal management meeting in about a half hour, 45 minutes maybe at the most, by going through this way, because it keeps the conversation tight. So I think, spinning back up to your question, have we used it Pomodoro specifically in other cases? No, but we definitely use a timer in lots of cases. Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, thank you to all of you who participated and were willing to come up here and your hands be on camera. And hopefully you weren't too embarrassed. So thanks a lot.